In the late 1980s, rock music was crowded with teased hair, polished hooks, and glamorous excess. Then Guns N' Roses arrived sounding rougher, meaner, and more unpredictable than almost anything on mainstream radio. They were not just another hard rock band chasing fame in Los Angeles. They seemed like a warning sign from the street, part punk attitude, part blues swagger, part heavy metal force. Their songs felt dangerous because the people making them sounded like they had actually lived through the chaos they were describing. Within just a few years, Guns N' Roses went from unstable club act to one of the biggest bands on earth. But the same volatility that made them exciting also threatened to tear them apart. Their story is not simply about hit records. It is about how raw talent, addiction, ego, ambition, and timing collided to create one of rock's most explosive legacies. Guns N' Roses formed in Los Angeles in 1985, emerging from the collision of two local bands, LA Guns and Hollywood Rose. The classic lineup soon became Axl Rose on vocals, Slash on lead guitar, Izzy Stradlin on rhythm guitar, Duff McKagan on bass, and Steven Adler on drums. Each member brought something distinct. Axl had a voice that could shift from a low growl to a high, cutting scream. Slash played guitar with a bluesy feel that separated him from flashier metal shredders of the era. Izzy gave the band a loose, streetwise rhythm foundation, while Duff and Adler gave the songs movement and drive. Together, they sounded less manufactured than many of their peers. They looked like a gang, played like a bar fight, and built a reputation in the Los Angeles club circuit as a band that could be brilliant, reckless, or both in the same night. After signing with Geffen Records in 1986, Guns N' Roses released their debut album, Appetite for Destruction, in 1987. At first, it did not immediately conquer the charts. The album was too raw for some listeners and too unpolished for the pop metal formula then dominating MTV. But that was also its strength. Appetite for Destruction sounded like Los Angeles after midnight, seductive, violent, lonely, and alive. Songs like Welcome to the Jungle captured the shock of entering a city that promised dreams but often delivered danger. Paradise City turned escape into a massive sing-along, while Sweet Child O' Mine revealed a surprisingly tender side without softening the band's edge. Once MTV began airing the Welcome to the Jungle video, momentum exploded. The album eventually sold more than 30 million copies worldwide and became the best-selling debut album in U.S. history. The success of Appetite for Destruction mattered because it shifted the direction of mainstream rock. Before Guns N' Roses broke through, glam metal often emphasized spectacle, party anthems, and glossy production. Guns N' Roses had the hair and attitude, but their music came from a grittier place. They pulled from punk's aggression, blues rock's emotional bends, and metal's volume, then wrapped it all in songs that felt both dangerous and memorable. Sweet Child O' Mine became a massive hit partly because it did not sound calculated. Its famous guitar intro began as something Slash reportedly treated almost like a warm-up pattern, yet it became one of rock's most recognizable riffs. This contrast defined the band, accidental beauty sitting beside self-destruction. Guns N' Roses made rock feel unpredictable again, and that unpredictability became their brand. In 1988, the band followed their debut with GN Our Lies, a release that combined earlier material with new acoustic songs. Commercially, it was another major success, reaching number 2 on the Billboard 200 and selling around 10 million copies worldwide. Its standout hit, Patience, showed how powerful Guns N' Roses could be without walls of electric guitar. Built around whistling, acoustic playing, and Axl's increasingly emotional vocal performance, the song expanded the band's image beyond pure aggression. But the release also deepened their controversy, especially because of the track One in a Million, whose lyrics drew heavy criticism. This period revealed a pattern that would follow the band for years. Their popularity kept growing, but so did the public arguments around them. They were celebrated as authentic and condemned as reckless, often at the same time. Behind the success, the band's internal problems were becoming harder to ignore. Substance abuse, clashing personalities, and the pressure of sudden fame created serious instability. In 1990, drummer Steven Adler was replaced by Matt Sorum because of drug-related issues, a major change to the chemistry of the classic lineup. Keyboardist Dizzy Red also joined, expanding the band's sound. These changes arrived as Guns N' Roses prepared for their most ambitious project, the Use Your Illusion albums. Instead of making a simple follow-up to Appetite for Destruction, the band aimed for something much larger. They wanted hard rock songs, piano ballads, epic arrangements, political anger, and cinematic scope. It was a risky move. The Raw Street Band was now trying to become a stadium-sized rock institution, and every creative ambition was magnified by the tension inside the group. Released in 1991, Use Your Illusion I and Use Your Illusion 2 debuted at number 2 and number 1 on the Billboard 200. Together, they sold about 35 million copies worldwide. These albums showed Guns N' Roses at their most expansive and excessive. They contained aggressive tracks like You Could Be Mine, emotional songs like Don't Cry, and massive epics like November Rain. The band also embraced high-budget music videos, turning songs into mini-movies with dramatic imagery, elaborate sets, and a sense of rock star grandeur. November Rain, with its orchestral arrangement and iconic guitar solos, became one of their defining statements. But the albums also reflected a band pulling in different directions. Some songs were lean and furious, others were sprawling and theatrical. The Illusion era proved Guns N' Roses could be more than a raw debut phenomenon, but it also made their internal fractures more visible. The Use Your Illusion tour, running from 1991 to 1993, became one of the most infamous and ambitious tours in rock history. It was enormous in scale, taking the band across the world and confirming their status as a global live attraction. But it was also marked by unpredictability. Guns N' Roses developed a reputation for late starts, volatile performances, public feuds, and chaos surrounding the shows. To fans, this danger could feel thrilling. To critics and promoters, it could be exhausting. The nickname "the world's most dangerous band" was not just marketing. It reflected a real sense that anything might happen when Guns N' Roses took the stage. The tour helped cement their legend, but it also drained the band. By the end, the question was no longer whether they were huge. It was whether they could survive being huge. In 1993, Guns N' Roses released The Spaghetti Incident, a punk covers album that debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200 and sold more than 1 million copies in the United States. Compared with the scale of the Illusion albums, it felt smaller and less essential, but it pointed back to the band's roots in raw, rebellious music. More importantly, it arrived as the classic era was coming apart. Izzy Stradlin had already left during the Illusion period, and in the years that followed, more members departed. By 1998, Axl Rose and Dizzy Reed were the only remaining figures from the Illusion years. For many fans, Guns N' Roses had become less a band than a question: could Axl rebuild it, or had the chemistry that made it great disappeared forever? Axl Rose did attempt to rebuild Guns N' Roses, but the process became one of the most famous delays in rock history. New musicians came and went, including Robin Fink, Buckethead, Tommy Stinson, Brain, Chris Pittman, and others. The sound also changed. Instead of simply recreating Appetite for Destruction, the new version explored industrial textures, electronic layers, dense production, and a more modern atmosphere. The result was Chinese Democracy, released in 2008 after years of speculation and at an estimated cost of $14 million, making it one of the most expensive rock albums ever produced. It debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200 and sold about 2.6 million copies worldwide. The album's reputation was shaped as much by its long development as by its music. To some, it was fascinating and ambitious. To others, it could never live up to the myth created by the wait. While the new lineup era divided opinion, the band's older catalog remained incredibly powerful. In 2004, Geffen released Greatest Hits, a compilation that became a long-running commercial success, selling more than 6 million copies in the United States and becoming one of the longest-charting albums in Billboard 200 history. This proved something important: Even when Guns N' Roses were not functioning like a traditional band, their songs continued to reach new listeners. Tracks like Welcome to the Jungle, Sweet Child O' Mine, Paradise City, and November Rain had moved beyond their original moment. They became sports arena staples, radio fixtures, guitar shop rituals, and cultural shorthand for a certain kind of untamed rock energy. The band's legacy was no longer dependent on current stability. The music had taken on a life of its own. In 2012, Guns N' Roses were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a recognition of their enormous influence and commercial impact. But even that honor came with tension, because the relationships among key members remained complicated. Then, in 2016, something many fans thought impossible happened. Slash and Duff McKagan rejoined Axl Rose for the Not in This Lifetime tour. The name itself joked about the years of animosity and the belief that a reunion would never occur. The tour became one of the highest-grossing concert tours of all time, showing that demand for Guns N' Roses had not faded. It was not a full restoration of the original lineup, but it brought back the central chemistry of Axl's voice, Slash's guitar, and Duff's bass presence. For longtime fans, it felt like a major chapter reopening. Today, Guns N' Roses stand as one of the best-selling musical acts ever, with estimated worldwide sales of more than 100 million records. Their current lineup includes Axl Rose, Slash, Duff McKagan, Richard Fortus, Isaac Carpenter, Dizzy Reed, and Melissa Reese. But their importance is bigger than numbers. Guns N' Roses helped end the dominance of polished glam rock by making mainstream rock feel raw, bluesy, hostile, romantic, and unstable all at once. Appetite for Destruction is still regularly ranked among the greatest albums ever made, and their biggest songs remain classics because they capture extremes: desire and danger, tenderness and rage, escape and collapse. Their story is messy because the band was messy. Yet that mess is inseparable from the music's power. Guns N' Roses became legendary not by avoiding chaos, but by turning chaos into sound. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.